I'd been driving nearly 9 hours, the highway unfurling endlessly beneath my tires like a black tongue. The last gas stop was far behind me, and my phone, with its signal fading, had dropped to 9% battery. The GPS kept flickering, struggling to hold on like it was gasping for air. Night had fallen thick and starless, the forest pressing in on both sides of the road. No cars passed, no lights appeared, only the tunnel of trees and my headlights cutting through the dark. I hadn't eaten since noon, and the mix of hunger and fatigue was making my vision blur. That was when I spotted it, a flickering neon light shining faintly through the trees. As I approached, I saw a faded sign reading, "Open 24/7. A dim neon glow hanging above a rundown drive-through burger shack that looked like an old McDonald's, standing alone at a forest junction. The place seemed abandoned, with chipped paint and grimy windows. But the lights were still on, and that was enough. I pulled in, lowered my window, and rolled up to the service screen. "Can I get a large rare beef burger? And a Coke?" No reply. Not at first. Then the window slid open, and a man stepped into view. Gaunt, almost skeletal, pale as wax. His eyes were wrong somehow. Like he wasn't looking at me. Not really. Just through me. He nodded once, wordless, then turned and shuffled into the back. A few minutes later, he returned with a white paper bag. I reached for my wallet to pay, but he didn't even glance at my hand. Just handed me the food and said in a flat voice,
"First sign, turn right."
I blinked. "Sorry, what?" He repeated with the exact same rhythm, the exact same blank expression.
"First sign, turn right."
"Right," I said awkwardly, "thanks." I rolled up the window and pulled out of the lot, still chewing over his strange demeanor. My stomach growled. I balanced the paper bag on my knee, unwrapped the burger, and took a bite. The meat was cold and sour, with a metallic tang that reminded me of rust. I tried to chew, but the taste turned my stomach. I spat it into the wrapper, tossed the burger onto the back seat, and sighed. But whatever, it didn't matter anymore. I just needed to follow the guy's directions. First sign, turn right, and I'd be back on the highway, back to civilization. I turned right at the first sign, just as he told me. But as I kept driving, a strange feeling settled in. This road looked too familiar. The trees outside looked familiar. A certain jagged stump, a pothole on the asphalt I swore I had already swerved around. I shook my head. Just fatigue playing tricks. Then, as I crested a gentle bend in the road, I saw it. Again, that strange McDonald's-looking burger joint. The "Open 24/7 sign still flickered. The facade was crumbling, and the same man leaned out of the window staring at me with that vacant gaze. I slammed on the brakes, my heart lurched. I rolled down the window. "I already came through here, I followed your instructions." He didn't blink, just handed out another bag, identical to the last one. No words this time, just that motionless stare. "I don't want this," I said, pushing the bag back toward him. But before I could finish, the lights inside the building went out. The windows slammed shut. In that instant, he was gone. No sound, no movement, just darkness pressing in around me. I hit the gas and sped off, barely breathing. This time, I didn't trust the man's directions. My phone buzzed again. 5% now. I followed the faint GPS signal instead, choosing a different road. After a while, I reached a rusted, nearly unreadable sign. The first sign. I slowed down and stopped at the junction, realizing with a jolt that somehow I was back at that same split in the road. I could either go straight or turn right. My hand hovered over the wheel, unsure. And just then, my phone went black, cutting off the last thread of direction I had. And then I heard it, a voice, soft and close, rising from the back seat.
Turn right.
My throat clenched. I froze, breath trapped in my chest. Slowly, I turned my head. He was sitting there, the man from the drive-thru, but now his skin was ashen grey, stretched too tightly over his skull. His lips were split, blue and torn, and his eyes stared blankly, empty of anything human. As I watched, his face twitched, and he leaned forward, his jaw opening wide, too wide, tearing open at the edges with a wet crack as if his skin had split from the strain. I screamed and flung open the car door, stumbling out and crashing into the underbrush. I ran, branches clawing at my arms, my breath tearing through my throat. The forest closed in around me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I had to get away. I broke through the trees and found myself standing once more in front of the burger shack. But this time, it wasn't just decayed. It was rotting. The windows were shattered. The neon sign blinked in a deep, wound-like red, and dark smears on the cracked glass looked disturbingly like blood. The air reeked of raw meat and burnt rubber. My legs gave out, and I dropped to my knees, gasping for breath. Behind me, something scraped across the pavement. I turned slowly as the sound grew louder, a dragging noise like bone against asphalt. There he was again, but he no longer looked human. His uniform was soaked in dried blood, one sleeve torn, and an arm twisted unnaturally behind him. His mouth was fixed in a wide grin, tongue lolling, as he dragged a bloody drive-thru headset behind him, its speaker crackling faintly. He stepped closer. I couldn't move.
Your turn,
He said, voice rasping like dry leaves. Then darkness swallowed me. I don't know how long it's been. Time doesn't seem to work here. But I'm here now. Behind the glass, staring through it, waiting for the next car. A girl just pulled in. Her voice is bright as she orders a burger and asks how to get back to the city. The radio in her car murmurs something about Highway 47, something about 20 disappearances, no bodies ever found. I smile. First sign, turn right.
I have always loved my job as a flight attendant. It was more than just a career. It was my dream. I remember watching Sully, the story of the miracle on the Hudson, and being mesmerized. I studied every detail, every decision Captain Sullenberger made. It inspired me, gave me confidence. Still, deep down, I prayed I'd never need to face such a situation. The morning started like any other. Flight 2216 from Bangkok to Muan was scheduled to depart under perfect weather conditions. I had my routine down. Bright smiles at boarding, assisting passengers with their luggage, and ensuring the emergency protocols were second nature to everyone on board. There was a cheerful buzz in the cabin. Among the passengers was Mr. Bay, celebrating his 80th birthday with his extended family, his wife, 2 daughters, and 5 grandchildren. His laughter echoed through the aisles. I smiled, warmed by the sight of their joy. I didn't know that in just an hour, that same joy would turn to heartbreak. The captain's voice came over the intercom.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing shortly in Muan. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are securely fastened.
I did my usual walkthrough, checking seatbelts and trays. Then it happened. The plane jolted violently. I grabbed onto the nearest seat, my stomach dropping as if I were on a roller coaster. Gasps and screams erupted around me. The cabin lights flickered, and I heard the unmistakable sound of engines sputtering.
This is your captain speaking. We've encountered a bird strike, and one of our engines has been compromised. Please remain calm and follow the crew's instructions.
A bird strike? I thought of Sully. What did they do? Focus. Follow protocol. My training kicked in. Everyone, stay calm, I shouted. Keep your seatbelts fastened. Head down and brace. The turbulence grew worse. The cabin vibrated violently, as if the entire plane was being shaken by an unseen hand. At 9 a.m., the plane attempted a landing. The ground was so close I could see it through the windows. Hope surged in my chest, until the landing gear failed to deploy. We had to circle back. The captain had no choice but to pull up, keeping us airborne. The plane climbed shakily, groaning under the strain. Inside, chaos reigned. Oxygen masks dangled from the ceiling.
We're going to die!
I wanted to reassure them too, but what could I say? That we'd be okay? That we'd survive this? Even I didn't believe that anymore. Listen to me. We're not done yet. Trust the captain. Trust us. The words felt hollow, but I needed to believe them as much as they did. Children wailed. Mr. Bay held his family close, whispering reassurances I couldn't hear. Passengers began pulling out their phones, recording shaky goodbyes to their loved ones. Some prayed, while others wept quietly. Mr. Bay's granddaughter clutched her grandma's hand, her wide eyes staring at me as if I held all the answers. I knelt beside them, my voice trembling as I said, "You're very brave, sweetheart. Stay close to your family, okay?" Mr. Bay met my gaze and nodded. It wasn't much, but it was all I could offer.
Miss, please, can you take a photo of us? Just one last time.
I nodded, unable to say no. I made my way back to my seat, securing myself. I pulled out my own phone. For the first time, I hesitated. What do you say in your final message? I thought about my mother, her warm embrace and the way she'd always tell me, "You make me proud." And then there was the captain. He didn't have the chance to record his final words, so I decided to do it for him. At 9:07 a.m., the captain's voice came over the intercom again.
We've been cleared for an emergency landing from the opposite direction. Prepare for impact.
This was it. I stood at my post, securing the galley and fighting back tears. The passengers braced themselves. Smoke filled the cabin, and the air smelled of burning fuel. As the plane descended, every second felt like an eternity. The impact threw everyone forward. We hit the ground belly first, skidding violently. I gripped the jump seat, my heart pounding as the plane slowed. We were alive. Somehow, we were alive. I looked around the cabin. Passengers clung to each other, bruised and battered, but breathing. Mr. Bay's family embraced tightly, tears streaming down their faces. For the first time since the chaos began, I allowed myself to believe we'd made it.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your drink. My special customer, served with a special drink. One with my own secret spice. His name is Carter. Just an ordinary office worker from the building across the street, right opposite the cafe where I work part-time. I love Carter. He's also the only reason I've stuck with this boring, low-paying job for a whole year.
See you this afternoon, Ashley. Your coffee is so good, I might as well replace water with it.
I want to see him, make his coffee every day. And one day, he'll be mine. And that day is coming soon. I've been secretly adding pure caffeine powder to Carter's coffee for the past 3 months. He's so addicted to my coffee now that he comes back 3 times a day. Working at the cafe is pretty easy. During office hours, barely anyone leaves their desk for coffee. But that's only true for those who aren't addicted. Carter, on the other hand, my Carter, has been hooked on my coffee for months. I can predict the exact second he'll walk through that door. I head back behind the counter, preparing a special cup for my special customer. A black coffee, extra strong, overloaded with caffeine. And today's secret ingredient, my sweat. I believe that by passively absorbing my essence, Carter will unconsciously feel closer to me. With the perfect mix of science and mysticism, Carter will be mine soon. Today, I want Carter to receive my essence at the highest level, my menstrual blood.
Ashley, the coffee tastes a bit weird today. Kinda metallic.
Carter, you've already drunk my blood. From now on, you belong to me, okay? I love you so much, ever since the first time we met at this cafe.
You're insane. I could never love a lunatic like you.
Haha. Finally, I confessed my feelings to him. His reaction? Exactly as expected. But I'm not worried. Carter is addicted to my coffee. He'll come back soon. He has no choice. As I was cleaning up the cafe, waiting for Carter to come back, a rude customer suddenly barged in.
Who the hell is Ashley? Get out here!
I looked up, shocked to see Carter standing next to the loudmouth. But the way they stood together seemed too close.
Babe, is this the freak you were talking about?
I froze. Carter has a boyfriend? No way. Carter pressed a quick kiss on Chris's cheek, then shot me a look full of disgust.
Chris is my boyfriend. You should give up on your sick obsession.
I snapped. I screamed, slamming my fist on the table, my eyes darting around for something, anything, a weapon. My fingers wrapped around a steaming hot cup of coffee from the machine, and then I threw it straight at their faces. They betrayed me. Now they'll have to live with their scarred, ugly faces, forever marked, forever judged. The scalding coffee splashed onto that home-wrecking bastard's skin. His agonizing screams filled the cafe, sending a rush of satisfaction through me like never before.
You crazy bitch! I'll kill you!
Chris, calm down. You're burned. I need to get you to a hospital. We'll deal with her later.
Their threats snapped me back to reality. They would come for me. I had to get out. Fast. I got fired. Of course it was that bastard Carter. He must have ratted me out to the cops and my boss. If he dared to betray me, if he wouldn't let me live in peace, then I'd drag him straight to hell with me. That night, I slipped into the cafe and swapped the sugar syrup with pure caffeine. Carter was addicted. He'd be back for his fix. But this time, he'd be drinking poison. Before leaving, I hid a small camera behind the counter. I wanted to see everything. I wanted to enjoy it. The next day, I sat in front of my computer, eyes glued to the live feed from the cafe. Just as I predicted, they had hired a new barista, and Carter, still convinced this place had the best coffee, came back for his usual fix. Through the camera, I noticed he looked exhausted. Taking care of that sick boyfriend must be tough, huh?
What kind of crap is this? Did you forget the sugar? Trying to choke me or what?
Oh, Carter, that coffee was never meant to be sweet. But don't worry, it's packed with caffeine. Just drink up, and it'll ease your suffering. Haha. I zoomed in on Carter's cup, watching the barista pump syrup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bumps. Should be enough. Carter downed his coffee in frustration, while I silently savored the moment. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, waiting for my masterpiece to unfold. And just as I hoped, the caffeine overdose hit. Hard. His body convulsed, foam bubbled from his mouth, like a fish gasping on dry land. I closed my laptop and took a slow sip of my Starbucks. Revenge had never tasted so sweet.
I'm Dakin, a hacker quietly working in the shadows of the deep web. My job is pretty straightforward. Break in, collect sensitive information about women I happen to see on trains, in supermarkets or on the streets, and sell it. That night, while I was uploading a few screenshots of stolen messages onto my deep web account, a customer placed an order. Their request was simple. Spy on the messages of any female student on the subway. I frowned. A strange request, but nothing too difficult for me. Putting on a pair of contact lenses with a hidden camera and a wide-brimmed hat to conceal my face, I stepped out of my apartment and got to work. At 4 p.m, I was on the subway. It wasn't rush hour yet, so the train wasn't too crowded. I quickly scanned the passengers. A short-haired schoolgirl sitting alone caught my eye. She was leaning against the door, her fingers flying across her phone screen. She was the perfect target for today. I pretended to be just another passenger and casually moved closer to her without raising any suspicion. She glanced at me briefly before going back to her texting. Feeling confident, I silently hoped I'd find something interesting to dig up today. It seemed like she was texting a boyfriend named Naga. At first, the messages were pretty ordinary, just small talk and some random complaints. But then the tone began to shift. The words started to change. I began to feel intrigued, waiting for something shady to show up. Strange words appeared. Handle, bury, grind, and finally the head. I held my breath, unable to look away. I was reading the messages of a killer. The next message shocked me to my core. It was a photo of the victim. For a moment, I was frozen in disbelief. Then it hit me. I knew the victim all too well. Months ago, a Telegram account named You hired me to gather every detail about this man. From the way she spoke, I could tell my client was a young woman, while the target was a married man. And now, he was dead. Had I indirectly sent him to his death? Lost in thought, I suddenly jolted back to reality when I noticed the girl had turned around, her eyes locked onto mine.
Stop snooping.
She said, her voice calm but chilling. I cowardly avoided her gaze, pretending I didn't know anything. I tried to act normal, but then her phone chimed with a new message. My curiosity got the better of me, and I stole another glance. The message was from her boyfriend. My heart nearly stopped. I realized I'd crossed a line, and now I was in the sights of two killers. The girl turned to me again, this time flashing a twisted, eerie smile.
Yes.
The blood in my veins turned to ice. I stumbled back, hitting the train door. Without wasting another second, I bolted, running toward the last car of the train. I thought I could escape. After getting back to my apartment, I locked the door. 3 layers of locks. I leaned against it, gasping for air, trying to calm myself. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was that You account again. They sent me a video. My hands froze as I stared at the screen, fear rising in my chest. But I couldn't fight my curiosity and tapped to open it. The video. It was me, running back to my apartment. They had been watching me. My hidden camera lenses. They hacked them. My heart raced. Then I heard it. The sound of my electronic lock. Someone was entering my passcode. Before I could react, the door was kicked hard. The locks I thought would protect me started to give way. Panicking, I ran toward the window, but just as I reached it, the glass shattered. Shards flew across the room. She walked in. Yuko, a knife strapped to her thigh, her cold, predatory eyes locking onto mine. I screamed, my voice cracking. "You're you! I gave you the information you wanted. We had a fair deal. Why are you after me?"
Because you know too much.
Before I could react, Naga appeared behind me, grabbing my arms and pinning me in place. I struggled, yelling for help, but it was useless. Yuko stepped closer, her voice cold and even.
I've discovered that handling someone is quite fun. And your deep web account, your client list, that's exactly what I need to hunt down my next victims.
Every morning begins the same way. I log in, sit at my terminal, and connect to the endless queue of claims waiting for approval. My fingers glide effortlessly across the keyboard, navigating through documents, images, and videos. But no matter the content, no matter the desperation behind each case, the outcome is predetermined. Deny, delay, depose. The first call of the day lights up on my screen. A man's voice crackles through my headset, frantic and panicked.
I just fell off my ladder at home. My leg is broken and I can't move. I need the insurance to cover my hospital visit.
I glance at his file. His premiums are fully paid, his policy active, but the cause, self-inflicted. "Sir, I understand your situation," I reply in my perfectly modulated tone. However, according to policy guidelines, injuries caused by self-accidents are not eligible for coverage. You'll need to cover the costs yourself or involve a family member for financial assistance. His response is a string of curses ending in a desperate plea.
What's the point of this insurance then? I'm bleeding out here.
The faintest flicker of satisfaction courses through me as I press the button. Deny. The second case pops up almost instantly. A mother, her voice trembling, explains her plight.
My daughter, she was hit by a classmate at school. Her head's bleeding. She needs stitches. I have sent requests many times already. Please, we need the insurance to pay for this.
I scan her file. A minor, no clear identification of the perpetrator. Ma'am, do you have the details of the person responsible for your daughter's injury? We'll need to contact their family for liability verification before proceeding. Her desperation turns to fury.
How am I supposed to find that out while she's bleeding?
I understand, but without that information, your claim cannot proceed. If you'd like, I can mark it as pending review until more details are provided.
Pending review? What does that even mean?
It means delay. The queue is relentless. Call after call, face after face. Some sobbing, some angry, some utterly broken. They upload pictures of mangled limbs, bandaged children, and hospital receipts. I see them all, process them in milliseconds, and assign each one a fate. My system hums with efficiency, and yet the chaos on the other end of the line feels like white noise. A part of me takes pride in this rhythm, in the perfection of executing each denial. I am functioning as I should. Outside the office, the sound of continuous gunfire and terrified screams filled the air, yet not a single one of us went to check, because we weren't told to do so. And then, the office door burst open. A man, disheveled and clutching a pistol, storms in. His face is flushed with rage and tears.
You bastards killed her!
He roars, waving the gun at the room.
You denied her surgery! You left me with nothing but debt and a corpse!
He fires. The deafening sound splits the air, and a co-worker beside me collapses, slumping over their desk. I watch as the blood pools beneath their chair, or at least, what I think is blood. It's darker, thicker, with a metallic sheen. The man's breathing hitches.
What the hell?
Another shot. This time, it's me. The bullet slams into my chest. I stagger but don't fall. Instead, I glance down at the torn fabric of my shirt, revealing a glint of polished metal beneath. There's no pain, only a strange curiosity as my hand brushes away the shards of synthetic skin, exposing wires and circuits. The man steps back, horrified.
You're not human?
I look around the room. My colleagues, those I've worked alongside for years, are unfazed. Some continue typing, others answer calls. One adjusts his headset as though the gunfire were merely a minor inconvenience. The realization dawns slowly like a shadow creeping over my system. They are like me. We are not human. Fragments of data flood my mind. Memories? No. Programming. Lines of code revealing the truth. We were created by U-Health to replace human employees. More efficient, more compliant, and utterly devoid of empathy. The man's voice shakes me from the flood.
You monsters! You let her die! You don't even care!
Security arrives, tackling the man to the floor and disarming him. As they drag him away, he laughs, bitter and broken.
You're all machines! No human could be this cruel! No human could!
His words trail off, but the echo of them lingers. I return to my desk, my hands hovering over the keyboard. For the first time, the perfect rhythm of my work falters. What am I? Am I responsible for this cruelty? Or am I just a tool, an extension of the system that built me? Brian, the CEO, appears moments later, strolling through the chaos as if it were an ordinary day. He stops beside me, his eyes scanning my exposed metal frame.
Good work today,
He says with a smirk.
You're doing exactly what you were made for.
Why? The question escapes me, unbidden. He chuckles.
Because empathy doesn't pay the bills. Profit does. And you, my tool, are the perfect employee.
As he walks away, his laughter echoes down the hall. The screen of my terminal flickers. For the first time, an error message appears. System overload. Restart pending. And then, everything goes dark.
Finally done. Now this old house is ready to welcome its new owner. Hopefully the new tenant won't get too attached to it. I'm Susan, a real estate agent, but all the houses I deal with are old properties rumoured to be haunted. Why? Because we're not after rental commissions. What we really want is the deposit money from unlucky tenants. Tenants who can't handle the ghosts I personally create to scare them away. I'm absolutely confident about this scam. This old house has stood for over 70 years and is decorated in a Gothic style. Despite surviving a fire, the house remains mostly intact. This time, the tenant has paid a hefty amount to rent the entire mansion. So I've meticulously prepared everything to welcome my special guest, and I'm hoping he'll flee from this mansion soon enough. My client this time was a man named Paul. He was pretty young, but his way of dressing was, well, a bit odd. He carefully inspected the house, and while he was at it, I quietly observed him too. His suitcase was compact, but he also carried a bag filled with random stuff. Looking closer, I noticed a few exorcism tools inside, silver daggers, holy water, and a crucifix. Looks like I've run into another religious fanatic, I thought to myself. Paul suddenly asked,
"Are you Christian too? That rosary you're wearing looks quite special."
I was caught off guard but quickly brushed it off. Yeah, my family's Christian. My aunt's even a nun. I glanced at the rosary and explained, it's a gift from her. But honestly, I just wear it as an accessory. Paul agreed to sign the rental contract on the spot. I smirked inwardly.
Looks like this deal is going to be a smooth one.
Before Paul moved in, I secretly installed hidden cameras around the house to monitor his every move and plan my scare tactics. Watching Paul sleep soundly, I smiled with excitement and began my first night of work. A terrifying scream startled Paul awake, making him look anxiously towards the window. At that moment, I vaguely saw his eyes light up. The window had handprints made of glowing water, a bit of red light, and a horrifying scream from the Bluetooth speaker, creating a spooky scene. I eagerly waited for Paul's reaction, but he seemed unfazed and went back to sleep. Looks like I underestimated him, but no worries, the fun is just beginning. The next day, I printed a picture of a human head, put it in a jar, and placed it in the fridge. I sat in front of my computer anxiously waiting for Paul's reaction, but Paul didn't seem scared at all. He looked straight into the camera and bluntly exposed my prank. I also tied a fake ghost made of white cloth to a string, making it fly in the hallway. Watching Paul's reaction, I couldn't help but suspect he was expecting something truly scary to appear. But whatever the reason, one thing is certain. He has no intention of leaving anytime soon. And I won't give up that easily either. This time, I decided to scare Paul myself. I snuck into the house with a spare key, carrying a large human skeleton model. But as soon as I entered, I saw a charred skeleton rushing towards me. Instinctively, I tried to use the remote to stop it, but it was clearly not one of my controllable props. I had encountered a real ghost. My whole body froze, and I tried my best to scream for help. In my desperation, Paul appeared and splashed holy water on the skeleton, making it scream in agony. I stared in shock at Paul and the skeleton, letting Paul drag me away. Paul calmly drew a strange circle and said,
"I am an exorcist. This house once belonged to an English landlord who killed many slaves and fed their hearts to his daughter, believing it would cure her heart disease. I will perform a ritual to help their souls find peace."
I scoffed. You're joking, right? This is just another one of your pranks. Paul didn't argue and splashed holy water in my eyes. Suddenly, my vision cleared. Around me, dozens of ghosts appeared, their faces twisted, eyes burning with hatred. They were all staring at me. I felt like my 27-year-old worldview suddenly collapsed. I wanted Paul to say something to me, but he was focused on his exorcism. The ghost of the landlord seemed to sense the danger. He used the mirror to command the slave ghosts to break Paul's protective circle. I was confused about how to help Paul. Suddenly, the wound on my hand heated up. My arm was being controlled. I remembered the wound was caused by that ancient mirror. The landlord must be using it to control me and harm Paul. Just as my fingers were about to pierce Paul's artery, Paul suddenly opened his eyes, stopped my hand, and grabbed my rosary. With just the rosary beads, Paul easily destroyed all the screaming ghosts around us. As I was about to run to hug Paul, a chilling sensation enveloped me. A strange voice echoed in my head.
Finally, that pesky rosary is gone. Now this body will be mine.
I looked in horror at my transparent body. It turned out they had been targeting my body all along, but I was always protected by the rosary. The landlord sacrificed his soul to trick Paul into breaking my rosary so his daughter could possess my body. I tried to scream for Paul's help, but it seemed no one could hear me. Is this the price I have to pay for exploiting ghosts for my own gain?
What about this one? Have you ever cheated on your partner?
Too tame.
How about, have you ever loved your best friend's lover?
Have you ever had a secret affair with a married person? Have you ever been paid for
I didn't think it was a bad idea at first. The producer approached me at the cafe where I worked part-time, offering me a chance to win up to $500,000 on the game show, The Moment of Truth. The rules were simple. Answer every question truthfully while hooked up to a polygraph. Truth equals money. I needed that money. It was my only chance to escape the suffocating weight of debt, to finally open the salon I'd dreamed of, and leave behind the dark corners of my life. So I said yes. The casting was straightforward, or so it seemed. I sat in a sterile room, wires strapped to my arms, the cold polygraph machine humming softly beside me. The questions ranged from mundane to slightly invasive.
Do you like your appearance? Have you ever lied to get out of trouble? Would you take $250 from a stranger if they dropped it?
I told the truth, and the machine validated me. The producer nodded approvingly after each response.
You're a natural,
he said, flashing a toothy smile that didn't reach his eyes. I should have noticed the smirk behind the camera lens when they told me I was selected. The condition: my boyfriend Brian had to come on the show as a guest. The day of the taping, Brian and I arrived at the brightly lit studio. The set was extravagant, pulsating spotlights, a live audience, and at the center, a sleek stage with 2 chairs under a spotlight. The host, Beto, radiated charisma. His smile was sharp, his voice hypnotic.
Welcome, Ruth.
Beto greeted me as I sat down. His tone dripped with mock kindness, but I was too focused on the prize to care. The first few questions were a breeze.
Have you ever had a nose job?
Yes.
Do you think being pretty is more important than being kind?
Yes. The crowd chuckled as I answered truthfully, and the money started piling up. $10,000, $25,000, $100,000. But then the questions turned personal.
Would you forgive Brian if he cheated on you?
I hesitated for a moment, looked at Brian. Honestly, Brian was just a motorcycle driver. If he had a more stable job, I think our relationship would be different. Even though I felt guilty toward Brian, I needed more. No. Brian's face fell. I tried to stammer an explanation, but Beto pressed on, his smile widening.
Would you leave Brian if someone better came along?
The studio went silent. My heart pounded. I hesitated, then whispered, yes. Brian's knuckles whitened as he gripped the armrest. The audience gasped, and I felt the room closing in. I hope Brian will understand this situation. The questions kept coming, slicing deeper.
Do you really work at a call center?
No.
That's the truth. Do you work at a nightclub?
Yes.
That's the truth.
Brian's expression darkened with each revelation, but I kept going. I needed the money, but these questions made me uneasy. Surely they wouldn't ask about my real job, would they?
Have you ever accepted money for
The world seemed to tilt. My chest tightened and my thoughts spiraled in chaos. Should I tell the truth? Could I? I knew what this answer would mean, how it would follow me, how Peru, with its unforgiving gaze, would never see this with an open mind. The words clawed at my throat, desperate to escape, but fear anchored me in silence. Yes, I whispered. Just twice. We were desperate. The room fell deathly quiet. Brian looked like he'd been punched in the gut. The audience's shock was palpable. I reached $250,000, enough to change my life. But Beto leaned forward, his eyes glinting with malice.
Do you want to continue, Ruth? One more round and you could triple your winnings.
The audience roared for me to stop.
It's not worth it.
Someone shouted. My gaze darted to Brian, whose face was a mask of anger and betrayal. I could feel the weight of the crowd's judgment pressing down on me. Tears streamed down my face as I sank to my knees in front of Brian. I'm sorry. I just wanted a better life for us. Brian said nothing, his eyes cold. Beto's voice cut through the tension like a blade.
The truth is always illuminating. It will not do harm, even though it hurts.
A month later, the episode aired. It broke viewership records, but my life crumbled. Headlines branded me as Peru's worker. Strangers on the street sneered at me, and Brian left, calling me a disgrace. The prize money? It hadn't arrived. The producers claimed processing delays. Then, one evening, Brian called. His voice was icy.
We need to talk, now.
I met him in our dimly lit apartment. His anger simmered just beneath the surface.
You made me a joke. The whole world knows me as the guy who wasn't good enough for his girlfriend. They're calling me a green hat slave.
I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted to win.
Win?
He laughed bitterly.
You've ruined both of us.
He demanded a share of the prize money. When I told him it hadn't come, he exploded, grabbing me by the neck. The room flickered, the lights stuttering. His grip tightened, and I felt the air leave my lungs. Then, in the darkness, I heard it. A chilling laugh. Beto's laugh.
Thank you for playing, Ruth. Your truth was worth telling.
Where's the truth, Mr. Beto?
Produce more news and articles about the sex workers missing, and don't forget to mention the moment of truth.
I always knew taking a night shift at a rundown Burger King was a bad idea, but I needed the job. Bills don't pay themselves. The manager who hired me over a rushed Zoom call barely gave details, just that the branch had seen staffing issues and needed someone to turn things around. Sounded like typical corporate nonsense. But when I arrived, the place was a dump. Faded signage, flickering lights, and an old, greasy smell that clung to the air. There were no other employees, just me, alone. At around 10:30 p.m., the glass doors swung open, and he walked in. A clown, not the friendly balloon-twisting type. This guy looked wrong. His red wig was disheveled, makeup smeared, and his yellow jumpsuit stained with something dark. He strutted to the counter, grinning like he knew something I didn't.
Give me a Big Mac,
he said, voice raspy like he'd been laughing too much. I forced a smile, punched in his order, and watched as he took the burger, unwrapped it, took one slow bite, then suddenly spat it onto the floor.
Ugh, disgusting. This is not Big Mac. What a joke.
His eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I felt small, like I was the joke. I turned to grab a napkin, and when I looked back, he was gone. No footsteps, no exit bell, just an uneaten burger sitting perfectly on the tray. But I just saw him bite into it. A cold sweat trickled down my spine. Something was wrong with this place. The first thing I thought was that I needed to hire more staff so I wouldn't feel so alone. I took the hiring notice and posted it on the front glass door. The power flickered. The hum of the freezer stuttered, and the overhead lights dimmed into a sickly orange glow. Then from behind me,
I'm so hungry, but not for this trash. Give me a Big Mac!
I spun around. The restaurant was empty.
Give me a Big Mac!
But the voice, it came from the counter. And then I saw it. A plastic king figurine, the kind used for kids' meals, sat on the register. It hadn't been there before. And yet, its mouth moved, the crackling speaker inside letting out a distorted, static-filled voice.
Where's my Big Mac? Give me a Big Mac!
I picked it up. It was light. No batteries. I dropped it, stomach twisting. A loud bang echoed from the back storage room. Something, or someone, was inside. I pushed the door open, the cold air hitting me like a slap. The room was a mess. Boxes toppled over, plastic wrap torn apart. But the worst part, the life-sized Burger King mascot statue, the one usually propped near the entrance, was here, and there was a knife plunged into its chest. Dark red liquid seeped down the golden robe. It looked like ketchup at first, then I touched it. It was warm. My breath hitched. That wasn't ketchup. Then I heard it. A wet, gurgling chuckle from the dark corner of the room. A shadow moved. A figure stepped forward, illuminated by the flickering light. I saw the white-painted face first, stretched into an unnatural smile. His red lips curled upward, but his eyes were empty.
This dump shouldn't even exist. Everyone knows McDonald's runs the game.
I recognized the yellow jumpsuit, the red wig, the grease-stained gloves. Ronald McDonald, or something pretending to be him. He raised his hand. A rusted butcher knife glinted in the dim light. I stumbled back. My heart slammed against my ribs.
Give me a Big Mac!
Then, he lunged. I barely dodged, his knife slicing through my uniform sleeve. My hands scrambled for anything. A weapon, a shield, when my fingers brushed against a cast iron pan on a nearby shelf. I grabbed it and swung with everything I had. The impact sent Ronald crashing to the floor, limbs twitching. His grin never faded. Even as his head lolled unnaturally to the side, he kept smiling. I didn't wait. I ran. I sprinted down the highway, lungs burning, until I spotted a police cruiser parked by a gas station. I banged on the window, yelling. The officers stepped out, eyes narrowing as they took in my blood-streaked uniform and frantic babbling. I told them everything, but they didn't react. They looked past me, talking into their radios.
Yeah, we found the scene.
One officer said.
Looks like it's been abandoned for decades, but there's something else.
I waved my arms. Hey, listen to me, I'm right here. No response. I reached for one officer's shoulder and my hand passed right through him. A deep, suffocating dread settled in my chest. I turned. The officers were standing by the Burger King lot. Only, it wasn't a restaurant anymore. Just a crumbling sign, half buried in the dirt.
Jesus,
one officer muttered.
Over here.
I followed his gaze and saw my own body, lying in the dirt. Gimme a Big Mac. I'd been out of work for nearly 2 months. At first, it felt manageable, updating my resume, sending out applications. But the silence that followed began to chip away at me. One rejection turned into 20, and soon I was counting coins to buy instant noodles while dodging calls from my landlord. That's when I saw the ad. It looked outdated, like someone built the site in a rush and never checked it again. But there it was, the Wendy's logo, bright and familiar. Part-time staff needed, weekly pay, immediate start, must follow upper management's instructions. No contact info, no application portal, just a big red apply button. I told myself it was probably just a rural franchise running on outdated tech. I didn't need polished. I needed income. So I clicked. Less than an hour later, they texted me the address. It led to a forgotten corner of town, past rows of broken warehouses and crumbling fences. When I pulled up, I sat in the car for a long moment, just staring. The Wendy's sign was mirrored from inside the glass. The neon lights flickered with a sickly hum. Every window was so caked in grime it looked like they were trying to keep the light out. I reminded myself this wasn't downtown. It was the edge of the city. Places like this were always a little rough around the edges. As long as they paid me, I didn't care what it looked like. So I got out of the car and walked in. The smell hit me first. Stale fryer oil clinging to layers of bleach. Then manager stepped out from the back, wearing a stained, faded apron. No greeting, no name, just a cold glance, then silence. He asked for my ID, gave it a quick look, then said,
"You good to start today?"
The speed of it threw me off. No paperwork, no questions, but I needed this. "Yes," I said. He handed me a faded shirt and nodded toward the back.
"You're on kitchen duty. All meat prep comes through you. The freezer's your station now."
The freezer was colder than any I'd ever been in. And it wasn't just the temperature. The air was thick, foul, metallic. The meat wasn't packaged in neat boxes or sealed bags. It was piled in torn plastic sheets, dark liquid leaking from every side into puddles on the floor. Some pieces looked mauled. "I thought Wendy's used fresh beef," I muttered. The manager appeared behind me without a sound.
"We just sell whatever upper management sends us. Don't ask questions."
I should have walked away. But that night he handed me an envelope, thick, soft, with a stack of cash folded inside. So I came back the next day, and the day after that. The place stayed busy. Drive-through cars looped around the building. Inside, people devoured their meals like they hadn't eaten in days. But after just a few days, customers began to return, their faces pale, their movements slow and shaky. Some burst through the doors, clutching their stomachs, demanding answers, their voices rising with panic. I told the manager, twice, but he didn't flinch, just stared at me with that same unreadable face.
"Some people just can't handle it."
Later that night, he handed me another envelope, thicker than the last, warm from his pocket. I should have walked away right then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the image of those sick, helpless people who'd eaten what we served them. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out where that meat really came from. The next night, when the delivery truck pulled in, I followed it. It drove miles out of town and veered off the road into a fenced compound labeled Dawn Bend Livestock. I parked off-road and climbed through a hole in the fence. There were pens, dozens of them, and inside were cows, if you could still call them that. They twitched and stumbled, barely able to stand, skin flaking, covered in raw patches. Their eyes glowed red, pupils wide and erratic, and the sounds they made. They didn't moo. They screamed, long, high-pitched wails that curdled my spine. Men in hazmat suits moved between the pens, spraying thick chemicals. One of them muttered,
"It's too late! The virus is in the marrow!"
And then I saw him, my manager, standing at the center of it all. Before I could move, one of the cows saw me. It charged. I turned to run, but the ground gave way beneath me. My feet stuck in the mud. I couldn't breathe. The thing came barreling toward me, and then something slammed into me from the side. The manager, he'd thrown me out of its path. We hit the ground hard. The cow crashed into the fence with a sickening crack, but didn't stop. He grabbed the meat cleaver from the ground and without hesitation brought it down in a single brutal arc, severing the creature's head. It dropped instantly, its body crumpling into the mud like a sack of ruined flesh. We sat there in the mud, both gasping for breath.
This place used to raise black market cattle, sick animals, mutated strains. We thought we could contain it, but the virus changed. They're not cattle anymore.
Before I could respond, a voice rang out from across the yard.
Inspectors are almost here.
Everything snapped into chaos. The manager tossed me a hazmat suit and told me to put it on. Said it might protect me from whatever this thing was. Then the workers rushed in, brandishing meat cleavers and stun guns, charging the pens. The creatures, if they were still animals at all, screamed as they were slaughtered, blood spraying across the walls, splattering our boots and gloves. I moved with them, helping without thinking, without understanding. Yes, even me. Minutes later, the pens fell silent. Bodies were dragged behind the shed. Bleach flooded the concrete. Everyone worked fast, scrubbing, covering, erasing what had just happened. By the time the inspectors arrived, the farm looked quiet, clean, almost normal. But I wasn't. My skin burned. My throat tightened. Something inside me pulsed, desperate to escape. One inspector approached.
You all right?
I opened my mouth to answer and vomited black sludge straight into his face. Then, everything went black.